Well, moving on, we should move on to the next question, which is, do you ever get the urge to one day become a beast again? Like when you weren't feeling self-aware. Like, do you ever want to go back to a time that's more primal in a sense?
Are you asking me if I'm a furry or what?
Not
I would
necessarily.
say yes. Yes. I used to be much simpler as a predator. But I could change introspection, real consciousness, having an inner dialogue with just relying on pure instinct. It was nice. It was, comfortable. But having experienced this life now, life of a sentient being, I don't know if I can go back. But would I be more comfortable in a body that resembled the one I used to have while I was alive? Maybe. Maybe.
Yeah, definitely. That is a similar, well, not really. It's a bit of an issue as I've seen with doing these interviews. There are some people who feel different when they're not themselves. But some people do flourish in a state where they aren't themselves, and I suppose that just changes per person. Don't you agree?
I absolutely agree. After all, everyone has been shaped by their own life experiences, by the different hits that they have taken, the different gifts that they have received. And sometimes, whether you get isekai'd or you actually change your body, or you just grow as a person, sometimes looking back into the past can be fine, can be fun, it can be nostalgic or melancholic too. But there's nothing to do. You cannot go back there. You absolutely can't.
Yes, that is true. There are just some there's just some things that you cannot get anymore, they as how some people like to put it. They only exist in memories now at that point.
Precisely. Precisely.
But the one thing that we can take from the past is, of course, the lessons we get from them, which is the reason why how a lot of people like to state when discussing history, of course, is the reason we learn history as to not repeat it. But
Precisely.
but admittedly, there is just some times wherein things happen that, even though it's like a very bad, it's not a great idea to do, people still do it. But I
Oh
suppose
yes, of course.
that's just the nature of people, right?
Well, yeah. I have always thought that person can be smart, but people are dumb.
Yeah, definitely. There has been like a lot of cases I've seen wherein people agree on one thing, even though that one thing is a bit dumb. How one person managed to convince five people that he was right, and those five people convinces one smart person that he was right. Oh, and that one person believed that they were right only because a majority.
Of course, it's really important to study your logical fallacies so you don't fall into them. You don't get tricked by them.
Definitely. There has been like I admittedly there has been like some things which I fell for, other things which I definitely needed to do research on, and some things which I did find out and like thought of by myself, which is a reason why I am more, which admittedly I which strange sorry, it's hard to word this, but
It's
strangely
fine.
enough, I think I am more philosophical than some of my peers growing up because of the way that I viewed things. I in my culture, being a philosopher is treated differently. It's treated more as an, not quite as an insult, but something that is like taken like more like a lot lightly than it probably should be.
Of course, of course. Philosophers, after all, concern themselves with things that cannot be grasped in real life. They cannot be health. They aren't solid things you can manipulate. They concern themselves with matters of truth, basically.
Yeah.
And that can be a difficult concept to grasp. Like a Platonic ideal. What's that? Well, it's everything that something is and nothing that something isn't. What does that mean? Well, it means that out there is a concept of chair, for example, that is universal to everything that is a chair, but isn't,
Yeah.
but it's universal to nothing that isn't a chair. But people would say, and how does that help me IRL? How could that actually do something? How does that make me money? Or how does that get me a girlfriend? I don't know. Things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's like a matter of how people think things. And there's actually this one video I saw which admittedly kind of like a bit like broke my heart because I kind of like looked up to this person, but it was this one scientist who was discussing, he's a very well-known scientist, right? He's also an
Yeah?
entertainer, but then he discussed about how scientists and philosophers cannot get along because philosophers deals with
Hmm.
like the thoughts of humans and that what they're doing is
Yeah.
pointless. And when I heard that, I kind of just got brokenhearted and I don't like this guy anymore.
That sounds like Neil deGrasse Tyson, to be
Yep,
honest.
yep, that's him.
Yeah, that sounded like Neil Tyson immediately.
Yeah,
Uh,
I looked
yeah,
up to
that
this guy
that
at a
guy.
while, but yeah.
Yeah, I think we all did. We all did at some point, but then we realized you're just an asshole, right? You're like a really smart asshole. Like you were the guy that the Big Bang Theory was warning us about. You are the real life Sheldon.
Oof. That's true though. But yeah, but going back to like what you said earlier, the concept of the chair.
Yes,
What I thought of is that whatever you sit on technically is a seat, but doesn't mean it's a chair.
exactly, exactly.
Most people don't think about things like this, and that annoys me a bit. Like when somebody says, "Don't sit there. It's not a seat. It's not a chair." Well, technically, anything you sit on is a chair.
Could be. It could be.
Or the opposite, don't sit on that. That's a table. Well, if I put something on something, doesn't make it a table. What allow? Like it's just that what is the purpose of something? That's a thing that always pops up in existential philosophy. Like I
Of
suppose
course,
like its
and
purpose.
yes, that's a concept that we call prescriptivism versus descriptivism.
Yeah.
And, and of course, that means that sometimes the language, the words that we use, change the way we view the world.
Yes, exactly. There's just some terms that we use every day that we don't realize has a lot of how should I say, not really weight to it, but something like on how it can mean several things to several people. Not
Of
not just in the
course,
not just in the language barrier, of course, but also like how it is used in a how it's used in a in a common way, of course.
I understand that, yes. After all, and sorry for getting a little bit too political here,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of people refuse to accept that gender and sex are different things.
Oh yes, yes, definitely.
Them, they have always been synonyms. They don't understand the nuance in the terms.
Yeah. Like the actual the biological processes of the body versus the way someone thinks and how they view themselves specifically. Those things are different,
Precisely.
but a lot of
That's
people
right.
like to combine them. That's